Hello there, all my fellow artists of the world. Once again, welcome back to whatever this is. Today, I have a bunch of tips for you on painting your own artist signature because it's a very simple thing, but it's something we also often overlook, and some people just end up not doing an artist signature at all, especially as a beginner, because they end up feeling like they're not going to do it right, or they don't know what they're doing, or they're just don't really have the confidence to just do it, right? And I get it. Sometimes it can be really, really tricky because it's like writing words with a paintbrush is one of actually the hardest things to do as a painter, at least I personally think so. But again, I've got quite a few tips here I'm going to share with you today to hopefully help you, ace your perfect signature. So before we even get started, the very first thing that you always want to do is actually come up with, I know it's going to sound like duh, but you need to actually come up with what your artist signature is actually going to be, because more than likely it will probably just be your name. However, think about it. Do you want to use your full name? Do you want to just use your first name? Do you just want to use your last name? Do you want to use your full first, middle, and last name if you have a middle name, right? Or maybe do you want to just keep things super simple, use your initials, maybe even just go by, if you want to get real crazy and go by like a nickname or something, or an alias or something like that, you can totally do that. But it's always great to have in mind what you want your signature to be first. And I know it's kind of the simplest step, but it's also kind of the hardest, because if you've not done an artist signature before, if you don't know, who you want to be referred to as an artist, then it might be really difficult. For myself, me personally, I just go by Carrie. I don't put my full name because I just don't want to. I like Carrie. I like it simple. I like to think of myself as like the Reba of the painting world. At least hopefully someday, right? So I just want to be known by my first name. So I just always sign my first name. And I also always add a little heart on the end of it because I just like to. So of course you have total freedom to kind of figure out whatever you want to do. But just practice around with a couple different things, see what they look like and all that first. Now, before we actually get started with, actually painting your artist signature, you can do this video, you can do this all along with me if you'd like. I'm just going to use a small brush, paint, it actually doesn't even matter what color for this. And we're actually going to practice first, or at least I'm going to show you how to practice with a marker first, because I think it really, really helps to practice what you want your signature to look like before you go picking up the paintbrush. Because like I already said, it's really, really difficult to paint words, right? It's really difficult to write with a paintbrush. So I think it always helps to use either a marker or a pen first. I'm going to use this good old classic Sharpie. It's actually an oil-based Sharpie. So it kind of writes a little bit like a pen, or like a paintbrush would. So I'm just going to practice on, I'm just using these like little photo cards, the backs of these. You can use like scrap paper for this, that's what I'm doing. And I'm just going to practice my artist signature. So this is the way I always do my signature. I always actually do a dash too first. And then I just write my name in cursive with a little heart. This is my artist signature right there. So if you aren't exactly sure what you want your signature to be, you can go on ahead and practice it a couple times in marker first. But again, that way you just kind of, especially with a marker, a pen is great too, but a marker is probably best because you get to kind of feel the smooth movements of what the paintbrush is really going to feel like. So practice that quite a few times, especially if you are a beginner and you're not really sure exactly yet, if you're still a little bit intimidated by, painting on the words. Go ahead and use the marker quite a few times. Now the next thing you'll want to do is actually practice using the paint. So I'm just going to use some raw umber for this. That's probably way more than I need for this, but oh well. And I'm just going to get my brush nice and wet to start. You always want a nice, wet, pliable brush. So before you even, I know you're going to feel like I'm dragging this out now, but before we even go writing our name with the paintbrush, it helps to first, and this is great for just painting in general too, practicing making really, really thin lines with your paintbrush. So you can go ahead and dip into your paint. Again, if you're doing this with me, or if you're just watching me, just see what I'm doing. Take some of your paint, come over, and again, try your best to make really, really thin lines. This is similar to what we practiced in the video I did on how to kind of help if you've got shaky hands, is to really, really practice making your lines. And practice making them as thin as possible. And how do we do that? It's just by gently, very, very gently and softly gliding the brush across the page, we don't want to, this is what you don't want to do, press it and pull it across. See how much thicker this line gets when you really push on the page and just pull it? Versus up here, if you just barely hover it against the page and just very, very gently drag it along, you're going to get a thinner and thinner line. Because you don't want the lines of your artist signature to be like this, because they'll all probably get really messy and really squished together. We want nice and thin lines so that our artist signature is, you know, legible. Now, another thing that you'll want to take note of, and again, this is going to be one of those obvious ones, is make sure you're using like a good brush, okay? And by that, I mean, I generally use like a small to medium round head brush for just about everything. If you guys have taken any painting classes with me before ever, you know that's what my go-to is just a small to medium round head brush that comes to a nice fine point. That's what a round head brush does, it comes to a point. You don't necessarily want to use, like, say, a flathead brush to make your artist signature. I mean, you kind of can use the edge of it, but it's not ideal, right? The ideal brush for making your signature is going to be a small to medium round head brush. And I have used the very, very tiny ones before that only have like a few bristles on the end. Those can be okay, but I always have trouble with them because I feel like they fray really easily because there's not enough coverage on the end of it. There's not enough bristles to hold its shape. So don't go for too tiny, but also don't go for, you know, like super duper big. We want a small to medium, small-ish round head brush. Now, along with this, when you're using this brush, another great tip is, like we already said, you want to get it wet first. But along with this, you want it to come to that really fine point. So this is, again, something, one of my greatest tips in all of my painting classes. You get it nice and wet, so the brush head is like dripping wet. Bring it over to your napkin or whatever you're using here. Press it down and twirl it. Twirl it against the napkin. And when you twirl a round head brush around and around like this, that's going to help bring it to a really, really fine point, right? So if it does start to fray, you know, you've been using this brush the whole painting and now you're at the end and you want to do your signature and everything, but it's all, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, splayed out and not really folded or pressed into shape, if you will. Just dip it in the water, take it to your napkin, and kind of roll it. Roll it over and over again. And when you pull away, it's going to be nice, and it's going to be a nice fine tip again for you. So again, it's going to be easier to make those super duper thin lines. Now I'm going to actually start practicing my signature here as I give you the next few tips. My next main tip as you start to do this is to hold your brush very daintily. Again, this goes along with making those thin lines. We don't want to press it and we don't want to squeeze the brush. You don't want to feel like you could break it with your grip. You want to really, really hold it gently. I usually do it like between these two fingers with my thumb. Kind of like a pencil, but I would actually probably, if this were a pencil, I would be holding it tighter. So with the brush, we want to hold it looser than a pencil. And again, we just want to go very gently, gliding across the page, the canvas, the paper, whatever you're using. Now don't expect your signature to look exactly like it does when you do it in marker. Also, don't expect to be able to do it all at once, especially if you have a longer name or signature. You're probably going to have to dip back for more paint, which is different from a pen or a pencil, or even a marker, right? So really, really have patience with yourself, you guys, when you're doing that. You know, remember that you're going to have to dip back for more, so just be patient, take your time with it, don't rush. I'll try this again with another added tip. And this one's a big one, you guys. When you are doing your artist signature or doing any lettering, any words in general with a paintbrush, my top tip for that, do not think of it as writing, okay? This isn't a pencil, we're not writing. We are just simply painting letters. We're painting letters. And that is actually something, if you ever do calligraphy, I tried it like once and it was like not my jam, but it's the same thing they will teach you in calligraphy. Is that you are not writing, you are drawing or painting letters. So you cannot expect the brush to work the same way as a pencil would on the page. You just simply can't. You have to know that in advance and know that it's going to feel and act different on the page. For example, like when you go to do, I always kind of have trouble with my K here, because when I'm doing it with a marker, I can do a little bit more of this curve. With the paintbrush, it's very, very tricky. I know I just did it there, but you know. So when I go to do that curve around, sometimes I kind of lift the brush up and then bring it down. I don't do a full loop-de-loop because sometimes it doesn't want to work. The bristles do not want to go certain ways like that. You know what I mean? They want to kind of move more freely than that. We can't control the bristles of a brush as much as we can control, say, the tip of a marker or the tip of a pen. Okay? So that's why we have to think, again, as we are painting these words, we have to let the paint flow. We have to let the brush flow. And inevitably, it is going to look a little bit different than what you did with your marker up here. Hopefully it'll look a little bit similar. You can still tell that hopefully you can still tell that it's my handwriting. I'm getting a little bit bigger each time, I do realize that. But you can make your artist signature as big as you want. Just keep in mind that, you know, like even here, this is even the first one I did still a little bit bigger yet than these that I did with the marker. And that is just simply probably because with paint, it's really tricky to get these thin lines even if you practice it a bunch of times. So don't expect your lines to be as thin or as, you know, your letters to be as close together and as small as it would be with a marker, because paint is going to act differently than marker will. Now another tip, as I practice this one more time here, I'll try my best to keep this one a little bit smaller. There we go. Is for do that. Okay. And I do this sometimes as well. I'm just going to go ahead and fill this whole heart in. I usually like to leave it a little bit open like these, a little bit of white space in the middle of them. Now, I close it off for a reason though, because I'm going to clean my brush off and I'm going to show you a little trick to kind of help yourself correct your work. Again, I do teach this in a lot of painting classes. It's one of my top tips, is that you can actually use white paint very much like whiteout, okay? So if something doesn't go the way you want, acrylic paint, it dries pretty quickly. But once it is dry, you can cover it up with white paint, let that paint dry, and then like paint over it again. Again, super duper helpful tip, not just for doing your artist signature, but for doing, you know, almost any painting, really. I'll just get a little bit of white paint out there, and treat it like whiteout. So for example, I'm going to dip into here, I'm going to get a bit on there, and then I'm just going to pretend that I did that on accident and kind of fill in the middle of this heart again so it looks like it's open, right? You can also clean up your letters this way if they get a little bit too thick, like maybe I wanted to thin down this R a bit. Just covering up part of the paint there. See how I did that? It's very, very subtle, but again, it's very, very helpful, a very useful tip. Now, of course, if you're doing an artist signature on a background that is not white, just use whatever color is behind it, okay? Which can be a little bit tricky because sometimes there's multiple colors behind it, you know? But just do your best. By that point, I mean, we do our signature at the very end of a painting, so you'll probably already have other colors out on your palette that you just used to make the painting itself. So just dip back into those colors that you used, and you can again use any of those colors similar to whiteout to kind of touch up your lines, maybe make them appear a little bit thinner, that sort of thing. But aside from that, clean my brush real quick. This was, again, just a super quick fire round of giving you a bunch of tips. I hope this was really helpful, you guys, on creating your own artist signature. Because maybe it's something you've done before, maybe not. Maybe it's something you would like to do, but you just didn't really know how or have the confidence to do it. So these are my top tips, again, for making your artist signature. I hope they were really, really helpful for you guys. And again, the final tip of all is just practice, right? You guys, it just takes a lot of practice. My artist signature might look a little bit different now than it did when I first started painting, right? So just know that also your artist signature and your style can definitely evolve over time. You don't have to keep using the exact same signature you started with. Maybe you started painting like 20 years ago and you took a break. come back to it, and you can, you know, change things up. You don't have to use the same signature for life or something like that, right? But practice, practice, practice your artist signature, you guys, and I promise that you'll get even better and better at it. So hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully you guys all check out some of my free painting classes here on YouTube as well. But until then, until I paint with you again, later, my fellow artists.